Okay, so welcome to another edition of Ed Talks with me, your host, Ed, the Executive Director of the Cape South African Jewish Board of Deputies. Daniel's my name, and you should know that by now. And we've got a different format of Ed Talks. I'm going to be looking down at myself and then at the camera. So disclaimer, I'm not a professional videographer or professional performer. We're on Zoom for the first time. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all the way from the land of potholes in Johannesburg, Wayne Sussman. Wayne, welcome to Ed Talks.
Daniel, this is taking me back to 2021, 2020, 2022 to be having conversations like this on Zoom. It's very good to be speaking to you. I wish I was in Cape Town. I wish I was sitting across the table from you. But if this goes well, maybe we can make that happen in the future.
I was going to say, Wayne, we have tried, not for lack of effort. I was in Joburg a short while ago and you were in Cape Town, I think, and then vice versa. So we'll see if we sit down between now and the end of the year to do another update. And just for our viewers, and by the way, Wayne, if you know, we've got viewers from all over the world. We've got viewers in Dubai and Melbourne and New York and Joburg and everywhere, even Pofadder, I think there might be one person. But it's elections campaign, it's elections time, local elections. And Wayne, you and I have done this song and dance before as well, doing webinars and doing live in-person discussions. For those of you that don't know, Wayne Sussman is one of the country's leading political analysts. And we get a lot of updates from you, Wayne, and we really appreciate you giving the time to talk to us about the political landscape. So November the 5th is local government elections. And it is the 5th, eh? Or is it the 4th?
I think it's the 4th of November. 4th of November.
You see, that's why I
wish it was the 5th.
Here. Why?
I have another day to prepare. Okay. Wednesday, the 4th of November.
Wednesday the 4th. So for the community, what the Cape South African Jewish Board of Deputies and actually our national board, what we've been doing for many years, is we feel it's our duty to educate our community. There's your responsibility as an active citizen to get to the polls, to vote for the leadership, for the government that you want to look after, city, your province, the country, etc. And we want to educate you why you should vote, not who to vote for, but why you should vote, what's happening, who you're voting for. And quite frankly, Wayne, you'll agree, there's nothing worse than someone sitting on the couch shouting at the government of the day for lack of service delivery and lack of this and lack of that, but then they don't go and vote at the polls.
Correct. You might shout at your soccer team or rugby team if they miss the open goal or miss the polls. But yeah, you can actually not just be a bystander, you can be a participant. You go with your ID. You stand in a line. Some people like long lines, but it can be short. Maybe we'll go into the best time of the day to vote. And that's it. I think there's an old adage that if you don't vote, you can't complain. It's very easy and more importantly, very important to participate in the next election.
So we're going to be doing a two-part of our elections campaign. The first part will go up until the 21st of June, where you've got until that particular time to register to vote. And we'll get into that in a moment. And then from the end of June until November, we're going to do a whole campaign on why to vote. So, Wayne, hopefully you and I will have another chat closer to the time. And it will culminate, by the way, which we do all elections, where the Cape Board, we partner with ENCA and we host an elections debate live on ENCA. And this time it will be obviously around local elections with the mayoral-elect candidates from some of the major political parties in the Western Cape. So, Wayne, maybe just to tell the community, what are the local elections? What are we voting for?
Great question. So we have a national election every 5 years, which includes the provincial ballot as well. So we're voting for the leadership of the country, and in this context, because you're calling from Cape Town, the leadership of the Western Cape. In the local elections, in the city of Cape Town, you're going to be getting two ballots. One for your ward councillor, which is the person who's responsible for for representing the issues of your particular ward in the city council, advocating for better services, advocating for roads to be fixed, advocating that you're getting bang for your buck with your rates and taxes.
And then you're also going to get the ward, the area where you live in, whether it's Constantia, Mitchell's Plain, etc. By the way, we are going to, during the course of this Ed Talks, is every time when you're explaining things, we are going to pop up things on the screen while we're talking so people can actually see what you're talking about as well, that they're not just looking at our beautiful faces.
Correct. So let's take if my memory serves me correctly, and municipal boundaries can change, like it's not just the ward where C pointers will vote is not just C point. It extends to edge of Camps Bay,
Yeah.
a bit of Clifton, parts of Greenpoint, etc. So it's a big job. There are many, many people. It's become very hard to be a ward councillor because you're representing at times 20,000 registered people. That's
Wow.
excluding people who haven't registered,
Yeah.
young people, etc. So it's a big job for a ward councillor. Then you're getting your second ballot, and that's the proportional councillor. And there's a list of candidates. So if we take the city of Cape Town, and I'm thinking of the declared mayoral candidates, we know that there is Jordan Lewis for the DA, Cheslin Steenberg for the Patriotic Alliance. Their names are typically going to be on the second ballot.
Yeah.
Well, on the list associated with the second ballot called the proportional ballot. And here's another opportunity to vote. Most people vote down the line, i.e., for the same political party, but sometimes people say, no, I'm going to give my vote to a different party. So that is a proportional ballot. So people in the city centers, in the major cities, get two ballots. I don't want to get too technical. If you
Yeah.
live in Plettenberg Bay or Paarl, I know that, or Hermanus, there you're going to get a third ballot, a district
Wow.
council ballot. But
Okay.
in the metros, where most of the viewers from here will be, you're going to get two ballots.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. A lot of people from Paul and Hermanus actually watch our Ed Talk, so they're going to need to know about this third ballot. But interesting, Wayne, you mentioned Jordan Lewis. On a side note, is he going to be running for mayor? Is there any? Because I know when he first came out saying if he becomes DA leader, he's running for mayor, and now there's I don't know. I've been hearing whispers in that he might not be running for mayor. Is that
Yeah, look,
that's a rumor?
it won't be the first time I've egg on my face, but I think there's a very high probability that he will be the DA's mayoral candidate.
Okay.
That's what he said from the
Yeah.
outset when he put his name in the ring
Yeah.
to contest the leadership of the DA. So
Yeah.
I do expect him to run
Yeah.
for a second term.
Okay. And then in terms of the registration, so what we're doing as a board, so we're engaging with matriculants at the schools and university students to encourage them, especially those matriculants that are either 18 or turning 18, to get them to register and explain to them why it's so important for them to be on the registration docket and then to vote. That's been a massive problem. I mean, I've been here 5 years in my role, and that's been a huge problem. We're talking almost 70% of the youth don't vote. Am I right in that stat, or is it somewhere around
Well,
about there?
Well, let's just go through in order to play the game, you have to be
Yes,
registered to vote. And
fair
this is
enough.
absolutely critical.
Yeah,
And it's easy, and you'll explain this far better than me, but you can do this online. You
yeah,
can do it at the IEC, and you can do it on
yeah,
the registration weekend at your polling station. And
yes,
I can assure you, it's very quick during a registration weekend.
yeah,
It's literally 5 minutes of your precious time.
yeah,
So, in order to participate, you have to be registered to vote, and you have to vote in the ward. I mean, there are ways, but essentially 9.5 times out of 10, you have to vote in the ward you're registered to get all the ballots.
yeah,
So you have to make sure you're there on election day.
yeah,
And so, for instance, if there's a student who's come to the University of Stellenbosch or the University of Cape Town, and you come from Johannesburg or Durban, you must register in the ward where you reside now,
yeah.
because
Okay,
this is where you are for the next few years. If you're not, and it's important to vote in the city you're living in or the town you're living in. So
yeah,
that's absolutely key, Daniel.
okay. Can that person, interesting, can the student also vote in Johannesburg or not? Only where they're residing?
You can only vote where you're registered to vote.
Okay,
Okay. So if you've moved here, and November's exam times for students, you're
yeah,
likely to be here in the first week of November, please go out and register to vote where you reside, whether it's in a hostel or a university residence or in a shared abode.
yeah,
That is where you must register
yeah.
to vote, because that's where you're going to be living for the next few years, and you want your water to be reliable. You want your garbage to be collected. Very important.
And you want your potholes to be filled. We always take a little bit of a look at Joburg sometimes, Wayne. I apologize. Now, we're going to share all the information about registration. You have up until, I think it's the 21st of June to register online. And then if you can't online for whatever reason, the 20th and the 21st, you can go into your local stations and register. But we'll be sharing that over the next few weeks. So everybody, and then you can visit the IEC's website. It's actually quite good. Got all the information
Yeah.
on there. Yeah.
And it's an easy number,
Yeah.
Daniel, 32810, 32810. Send an SMS, a short, remember things called SMS, not a WhatsApp message, an SMS to 32810, and
Yeah.
you'll see that Daniel Bloch is registered to vote at voting station X.
Yeah.
And just do that. It'll take you 20 seconds of your time. I think you send them your ID number
Yeah.
and your name, and it'll come back with a message. Very easy. Just do it. Mistakes can happen. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean there's a conspiracy that you're being chucked off the voters'
Yeah.
roll. Just double check that your certificate that you are registered where
Yeah.
you expect to vote.
Okay, great. So now that the admin's out the way, let's get back to the toughness of the conversation. So I asked a question before you explained the process. The percentage of the youth or young adults that haven't been voting over the last few years, by what I've seen on different platforms, isn't it close to like 70%? Or am I wrong?
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, I'll be honest, but because essentially we don't poll age.
Yeah.
We don't have exit polls, so we don't know the age of people. But for instance, we know that a lot of young people, we know that there's a downward trajectory of voter turnout, that less people are voting today than they were voting a decade ago, 15 years ago, 22 decades ago, and that's very worrying. The last few elections, both on the national election side and the local election side, has been the lowest turnout in our democratic
Wow.
history. And we hope that in this election that we'll see a reversal of that trend and people come out and vote and make their mark. And as I always say, if there's no party or candidate to vote for, spoil your ballots, but because you can but still participate in the process.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there should be at least one party who deserves your vote. There should be at least one candidate
Independent.
who deserves your vote. Just like you go to the supermarket and there are lots of cans of tin tomatoes, there's got to be one, even if it's not perfect, which does it for you. There's got to be one candidate and one party. I know we have high standards on this podcast, but there's got to be at least one.
Okay, well, I've just figured out the new marketing campaign. I'm going to vote for your tin of tomatoes as per Wayne. But Wayne, do you think that the voter apathy, as we can call it, do you think that's because of where South Africa's been headed the last few years? And to say that now you're hoping that it's a greater voter turnout is because whilst everybody's skeptical still of the GNU and not everybody's a fan, the reality is that our country seems to be on the way up, which means there could be hope for a better government, better working government, service delivery, etc.
Yeah, there is some renewed hope and optimism in the country. We still have major challenges.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's worrying that less people are participating. So we still know that we're one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the world. There's precious little investment and serious job creation in this country. And one of the people are saying, why should we vote? It makes no difference in our lives by voting. It's better to do a service delivery protest. It's better to stay away. This is a vehicle for your voice, for you to be heard. Every single vote counts. As you know, I follow and track every single by-election. I've seen by-elections recently. I think it was in the Eastern Cape in a small town where a party won the seat by 2 votes.
Wow.
Imagine 2 of those supporters of that party or 3 of those supporters of that party didn't show up. The other party would have won.
Yeah.
Every single vote counts. Even, and this goes back to the proportional ballot, you might say in Sea Point to the heart of Stellenbosch, we know who's going to win this ward. There's no point in voting. It's a waste of time. But you have that second ballot, which counts, which goes to the entire vote total.
Yeah.
So every single vote counts. Your vote might determine some young whippersnapper coming up who's going to commit their whole life to bettering Cape Town. And by voting for that person, they might get in. Or if you don't vote, another person who doesn't care, just wants another job for 5 years might get in. Every single vote counts.
Okay, well, that's great. I think that's great advice. And I think a message to everyone in the community, just register, get to the polls and vote, because you never know what that vote could do. And we have seen, and that's where maybe we're going to move on to, let's look at the Western Cape first, and we can look around the country. But we've even seen Patriotic Alliance, for example, if not mistaken, they shocked the DA in Stellenbosch by winning. No one would have thought PA would have won Stellenbosch. I think they've won a few others. Don't know, did they win Dunoon as well?
No, no, no. Dunoon was retained by the ANC, but with a reduced
Okay.
majority. The DA had
Yeah.
some good growth in Dunoon and the
Yeah.
EFF. Yes.
So what's been happening in the Western Cape that we need to be on the lookout for? Any major shifts, changes?
So let's go back to the city of Cape Town, because this is where over two-thirds of the visitors, of the residents of the province live in the city of Cape Town. It's the only metropolitan area. We know that this is also the safest, if you look at the last election results, the safest metropolitan area. What do I mean by that? It's the least likely to change hands 5 years ago,
Okay.
i.e., the DA won it by a greater majority than the ANC won in Mangaung, Bloemfontein, and Buffalo City, which is formerly East London, now called Kuchompo City. So what we've seen, and this trend continued in 2024, where the DA won in the city of Cape Town with a good, very strong majority. But the DA's big threat in the city of Cape Town, and certainly in the rest of the province, is one party, the Patriotic Alliance, led by Gayton McKenzie.
Yeah.
Just to what you alluded to earlier, Daniel, there's something called the Blue Wall, i.e., the areas of the Western Cape which have been impenetrable. These are places like the Swartland, Malmesbury, where the PA have won award off the ANC in the last few years. The town of Stellenbosch, where the ANC's won, sorry, the PA's won award recently.
Yeah.
Mossel Bay is the most safe DA area in the country. The PA have won award there.
Wow.
Also Drakenstein Paul. These are like, and then there's places like Amanus as well, which are very strong DA areas. So it's clear that the PA are beating down these historic DA strongholds and are the DA's major threat. The DA's other threats in the last election were the Cape Coloured Congress, also now known as the National Cape Coloured Congress.
Uh-huh.
That's led by a guy who's been in the news a lot lately, Fadil
Yeah.
Adams, who
Yeah.
was imprisoned, who was arrested and spent a week in jail. I think, look, he could be seen as a martyr, that he was treated unfairly, that his community gets treated unfairly. But this is a one-person party, and if his mind is going to be on a court case, I think his party is going to battle there. And then,
Yeah.
of course, the former mayor of Cape Town, Patricia de Lille, now the Minister of Tourism,
Yeah.
her party good, but good on a lot of challenges. So the DA's major threat is going to be the PA.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Then if we shift across, because I think from our community's perspective, well, so Western Cape and the city of Cape Town, we look at that and how that's going to impact the ward you live in and your service delivery. I think it's important for us to also know what's happening around the country. And in fact, I think the rest of the country is getting a lot more PR publicity. If we go to your home province, your hometown, Gauteng, we see Helen Zille's making a lot of waves and splashes and puddles where she is now. What does Gauteng, because that's shaping up to be a really interesting battle there.
Yes, so Cape Town is incredible. It's a city where I'm matriculated in. It's a
Yeah.
city where I love spending time in every year. It's a community where I come from. It's a very core part of my heart and identity. But the biggest metropolitan area and economically, and the most important economic part of
Yeah.
the area is the city of Johannesburg. And without a strong Johannesburg, there's a negative ripple effect to the rest of Gauteng and the rest of
One,
South Africa.
definitely. Yeah.
And so you've got Helen Zille, who I say is the Jacob Zuma of the 2026 elections. What do I mean by that? When Jacob Zuma and the Umkhonto we Sizwe party announced in December 2023, in the middle of December, that they're going to be contesting the national elections, it was a mega announcement, an outsized personality, a former president running against his party. That was the major theme of the 2024 election. So obviously Helen Zille is not as big as Jacob Zuma, and I mean Jacob Zuma is the president of South Africa, but in a local government context, Helen Zille is an outsized personality.
Yeah,
So the fact that she is running, I mean, this is probably the last time she'll run for office in her storied career, is major. The fact
yeah,
that the former mayor of Johannesburg, the former DA of Mayor of Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, the
mm,
leader of Action SA, is running for mayor again. So you see big personalities throwing their hats in the ring. We're hearing that the ANC might be bringing out some business people and or struggle heroes. Every single major party is thinking who is the best person which can shake up this particular race. PA, this guy, Kenny Kunene, the deputy leader. So much attention is going to be on Johannesburg. But again, I see it very unlikely that any party will win 50% of the vote there. It's just too fragmented and too contested. And again, because Johannesburg is the center of the media market in South Africa, Daniel,
yeah,
you'll see that the results here do have an effect. There are two other metropolitan areas in Gauteng, Tshwane, the nation's capital, Pretoria,
yeah.
and then the one which always gets neglected. And even though I'm a big advocate for Cape Town, I can assure you I love my roadhouses, Daniel Bloch. The East Rand, Ekurhuleni, actually has more residents than the nation's capital, Pretoria. There's a
Okay.
metropolitan area also there. So much potential beyond Johannesburg. Cape Townians will be happy to be in Cape Town because they're going to get less political advertising bombardment than we're going to
Yeah.
experience in the coming months.
Now, I know every time I travel to Joburg when it's election period, I mean, wow, every billboard, every street pole in every neighborhood has got probably about 11 or 12 posters of every political party you could think of. And Cape Town, we don't see as much. So I see what you're saying, but I'm looking forward to Joburg because I think it's going to be a fascinating election to turn out come November the 4th. And then,
Well,
yeah, no, carry
just
on.
Helen Ziller's well out of the starting blocks.
Yeah,
Herm Mashaba also. The question is, running an election campaign is absolutely bruising. You are
yeah,
trying to be uh, everywhere and anywhere. Anyone will listen to your message. You're trying to
yeah,
get all the media attention. Fatigue sets in and mistakes get made. We know that Helen Ziller has had some various faux pas over the years. Will she repeat those? The same with Herman Mashaba, certainly the ANC. It's going to be a tough, brutal campaign. Who will stand the tallest come 4th of November? It's going to be incredible to see.
Jeepers, it sounds like a Netflix trailer I was listening to now. It's amazing. Jeepers, always like listening to the way you explain stuff, Wayne. And then we move on to KZN because that's also quite a fascinating. There, if I'm not mistaken, you've got MK, IFP, and ANC, maybe the DA, but all slugging it out. What's happening in KZN?
Yeah, let's go to eThekwini,
Yeah,
Durban, which is the only metropolitan area in KwaZulu-Natal.
yeah,
This, in 2021, the ANC just got over the line. There's so many small one-seat parties.
yeah,
And we know eThekwini's gone through a very difficult time, battered by floods,
yeah,
battered by corruption. By the way, there's a lot of current xenophobic tensions there now.
yeah,
But in the 2024 elections, Umkhonto weSizwe won about 46-47% of the vote.
yeah.
And the ANC was beaten by the DA for second place. So the things to look out for, and you mentioned the IFP, the Inkatha Freedom Party, have never been that strong in Durban itself. They're strong in the
Okay.
northern parts of the province.
Yeah,
But there's a particular where hostels are. I don't think Cape Townians know, like where male only hostel areas or areas which are traditionally male only. This is where the
okay.
IFP have done well. But can they spread their message across these particular wards? Let's wait and see. And we know that Umkhonto weSizwe was a juggernaut in 2024. I mean, it was an
Yeah,
incredible result. The ANC lost almost 70% of its support. The majority of its members of parliament and provincial legislature from KZN were wiped out by MK.
yeah,
The question is, Jacob Zuma is 2 years older now since the last election. We've seen a lot of chaos within Umkhonto weSizwe. People say that Zuma's brand is chaos, that it's the way he likes to run, that there's method in the madness. Right now, Umkhonto weSizwe have to be the favorites to be the leading party, but like
yeah,
Johannesburg, Will they win? We know the EFF are very, very weak. So can Umkhonto we Sizwe form a coalition?
Yeah.
And the party is going to finish second, I believe, in eThekwini is likely to be the DA. So that's going to be interesting to see the DA versus MK in eThekwini.
Well, and I was actually going to ask you about coalitions because what about going back to Gauteng? What about Gauteng? Do you think there could be a coalition, excuse me, a coalition government there?
So let's say that the DA finishes first, and right now the polling and sentiment suggests that they are likely to be the largest party in Johannesburg. Of course, the ANC has 6 months to turn its trajectory around, but right now the sentiment's not good. Even
Yeah.
though it's died in the wool, ANC support will agree that. With that, the DA can rely on a party like the Freedom Front and possibly the ACDP. Thing is, that doesn't get you to the 50% mark. In my
Yeah.
opinion, in the city of Johannesburg, the kingmakers are going to be Herman Mashaba's Action SA. And we know that there was no Christmas card or Hanukkah card from Helen Zille to him or from
No
Herman
love lost
Mashaba
there. Yeah.
to her. They despise each other. We know that Herman Mashaba would love to end Helen Zille's political career, and she'd like to do the same to him. So Action SA, will they do a deal with the DA? We don't know. And the other one is Gayton McKenzie's Patriotic Alliance.
Yeah.
They currently have about 10, 11 seats. That can be consequential. We know he has a preference to work with Cyril Ramaphosa's ANC, but election results can often send a message, and politicians can see that, wow, the sentiment's really against this party, or the sentiment's not so bad against this party. A lot will be determined in the coming weeks and months.
Fascinating. And you mentioned the ACDP and the Freedom Front briefly, but one party that hasn't come up at all in the last, 15, 20 minutes, I don't even know how long we've been talking for. Where's the EFF?
Great question. So the EFF ever since they've contested elections, are the third largest party.
Mm.
And in the 2024, and let me just say one other thing. The media often said if there's going to be a president of the country who's not from the ANC, that person is likely to be Julius Malema.
Yeah.
He's the non-ANC president in waiting. The 2024 result was devastating for the ANC, but it also blighted the perception of the EFF
Yeah.
because Julius Malema's party went backwards in the last election.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for populist parties to go backwards. And they finished in fourth place behind Umkhonto we Sizwe.
Yeah.
So he goes into this election with a reduced profile. We know that there's a court case hanging over his head, well, a guilty verdict hanging over his head.
Yeah.
We also know that the EFF, a lot of their leadership left for MK. I mean, some of them have now left MK. So does he have a good enough bench to fight the elections, Daniel? That remains to be seen. I wouldn't write him off. He might do well in some of the metropolitan areas,
Yeah.
but he's not as strong a position today as he was 5 years ago.
Yeah. And then just last on the political parties, as we keep saying with the board, we're apolitical, meaning we're not advocating who to vote for, but it's important for our community to know who the different parties are. You should be doing your own research, community, and go see who's doing, because you might believe in one political party's agenda and ideology, and maybe another party ticks a box for you. What about parties like BOSA, Musi Maimane, Rise Mzansi, for example, these smaller parties? What's happening with them?
So I know you're a guy who likes your combat sports. We haven't seen many new parties being formed. There
Yeah.
was a new party formed called UFC, not Ultimate Fighting, but Unite for Change. And
Yes.
this was Build One South. Well, let's by order of votes in
Yeah.
the last election. Songezo Zibi's Rise Mzansi, Musi
Yeah.
Maimane's Build One South Africa, and Patricia de Lille's Good.
Good.
But they decided that there was too little time to prepare properly for the elections, and they're going to go it alone.
Yeah.
Rise Mzansi got a lot of media attention in the Western Cape in the last election. They did abysmally. A good or a shadow of their former self. I think they're going to really battle in this election.
Yeah.
I see Musi Maimane he's definitely more, I think, more focused on the local elections at this moment. I mean,
Yeah.
Good has more experience of fighting elections than the other two. But I think all three are certainly going to battle in Cape Town and are
Yeah.
likely to battle across the rest of the country.
Yeah. And then lastly, with Cape Town, also ACDP and Freedom Front. Generally, they'll do something with the DA in a local elections, etc. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, the Freedom Front
Yeah.
has a new leader in Connie Mulder from the Mulder family, who is actually a Western Cape resident, I think a City of Cape Town resident. They will hope that disgruntled DA voters who are saying the DA, then this happens. If a party's in power for too long,
Mm.
people get upset with it. They're fatigued. They don't like the same team winning the Premier League every year. They don't like the same political party winning. So the Freedom
Yeah.
Front will
Well
hope
done
to
to Arsenal,
say,
by the way, in that
well done
vein.
to
22
Arsenal.
years, they've won the Premier League finally. I'm not an Arsenal fan,
Yeah,
but I'll give them their kudos where kudos are
give them
deserved.
their kudos. But I don't
Yes.
think the Freedom Front will be the Arsenal of this election campaign. Um, but yeah, the Freedom Front support is more in the northern suburbs of Cape Town. But I think they're going to battle. Maybe they'll maintain what they had. I think the African Christian Democratic Party, respectfully, have had the same leader since 1994.
Yeah.
If and how much energy do you have to fight one more election campaign? This is why I always look at parties like the ANC, the DA, the Inkatha Freedom Party, and the Freedom Front, where we've seen those parties, and not always easily, survive a change of leadership, i.e., these parties are not built around one personality,
Yeah.
whereas other parties are built around one personality. So, look, I think it's going to be harder for these smaller parties in this particular election. But
Yeah.
again, the DA is going to this election where they've ruled the city of Cape Town now. Um, well, with the coalition, but essentially so for over 20 years, there's
Yeah.
been a DA made in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And are people going to say, look, they're starting to get sloppy. We're going to vote for a smaller party. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. And I think the last question is we see what's happening globally around the world with wars in different countries and rise in oil prices, and there's corruption, battles all over the place. Um, how does that, or will that impact local elections? So we saw what happened. We saw that in the national elections, some parties used foreign policy to try and get to the finish line, and that backfired abysmally, quite spectacularly, actually. Do you think that foreign policy or what's happening abroad, like a war in Iran, for example, is that going to have any impact on our local elections in any form?
Yeah, the part of foreign policy which will have the biggest impact on our election is the issue of xenophobia
Yeah,
or people who come into South Africa illegally. That is a serious foreign policy
yeah,
issue for South Africans. So
yeah,
Zimbabwe's being in economic turmoil affects the average South African far more than a foreign war. However, if the cost of living goes up, and it is going up right now, and the cost
yeah,
of petrol, then this can have an impact on voter sentiment. But
yeah,
historically, we've seen foreign policy not play a big role in elections. People are more concerned about bread and butter issues, about the
yeah,
street lights, about water, and of course, then about issues like identity more than foreign policy.
yeah.
But I'm always like to be proved wrong, but up until now, foreign policy has not been a big thing in South African elections. And by the way, this is also more globally a trend as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Wayne, I think it's been absolutely fascinating, and I hope that everybody's soaked up the information that you provided. And I think that key takeaway here is still going to be you've got until the 21st of June, 2026 to register to be on the voters' roll. And I think it's important for our community that you get to the website, you SMS, if that's still archaic, but still, or you WhatsApp, you email, however you can, but you do register yourself from the age of 18. Importantly, for matriculants, if you are turning 18 before the elections, you can still register because then you will be eligible to vote. So just watch our social media pages to see our election campaign and all the education we're going to try and offer you, all the information we're going to share with you. But Wayne, I appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you, whether it's on Zoom or in person. Next time, I'll buy a cup of coffee. I want to ask you, do you like chocolate?
Not really.
Not really. Oh, okay, me neither. Like I don't like Turkish delight chocolates. I just don't find them. They don't agree with me. Um, That's on a separate note, Wayne. But anyway, I think, Wayne, we'll talk to you in a few months' time and get more of an update, probably where we're at. We'll be further down the line with Helen and Herman's boxing battle. We'll get a better idea of where the PA is. And I think just keep up the work you're doing and keep the information flowing. And it's just to hear the way you talk so passionately about what's happening in the political arena. And it's better coming from you than from me. Let's put it that way.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. And
Thanks
I
so
won't
much.
sing. I'd rather hear you sing. I hear
No, that's fine. I won't sing either. But to all our viewers out there, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Ed Talks, our political update. So from me, Ed, until next time, keep it kosher.